The team here in Mission Control Houston today for rendezvous and docking is Flight Director Jeff Radigan. Teams here in Mission Control are a go for Soyuz final approach this morning. Flight controllers here in Mission Control Houston are working with their counterparts across the world in the Russian Mission Control Center in the town of Koryov on the outskirts of Moscow. As the Soyuz MS-20, carrying veteran cosmonaut Alexander Mazurkin, now on his third flight to space, and Japanese spaceflight participants Yusaku Maezawa and Yozo Hirano are nearing the end of a 4-orbit, 6-hour journey to the International Space Station, with a docking scheduled to the Poisk module on the space-facing side of the Russian segment of the station at 7:41 a.m. Central Time, 8:41 a.m. Eastern. Their journey to the International Space Station began at 1:38 a.m. Central Time, 2:38 a.m. Eastern Time, for a flawless ascent. Whether the launch pad was 26 degrees Fahrenheit with partly cloudy skies. Received some in-cabin views. In the view on the right is Yusaku Maezawa and Soyuz Commander Alexander Mazurkin in the center of your screen. About 8 minutes and 46 seconds after liftoff, the third stage shutdown and separation occurred on the Soyuz booster, and just seconds later, the Soyuz automatically commanded its solar arrays and navigational antennas to deploy. Since then, all of the engine firings to raise the orbit of the Soyuz vehicle to match that of the International Space Station have happened without any issue. If everything goes as planned, this will be an automated rendezvous. However, Soyuz Commander Alexander Mazurkin, in the center seat of the descent module of the Soyuz, will be at the controls in the unlikely event that he would have to take over manual flying control of the Soyuz for its docking. Again, Russian cosmonaut Mazurkin is on his third flight into space. Seated to his left in this photo is Japanese spaceflight participant Yozo Hirano, and to his right is Yusaku Maezawa. The crew will spend almost 12 days on the orbital outpost conducting a program of activities that involve showcasing spaceflight back to the people of Japan. Maezawa and Murano are making their journey into space under a contract between Space Adventures and Roscosmos. Mazurkin, Maezawa, and Hirano will not become expedition crew members, but rather Mazurkin a visiting crew member, and Maezawa and Hirano will be spaceflight participants. They will return to Earth on December 19th U.S. time, December 20th Kazakhstan time, in the MS-20 vehicle they are arriving in today.
Current range is 4 kilometers. Closing rate is 8 meters per second.
Вас понял.
Copy.
Once the crew floats through the hatch later this morning, expected around 9:35 a.m. Central Time, the crew will be greeted by Station Commander Anton Shkaplerov and the rest of the Expedition 66 crew. From left to right on your screen, NASA astronauts Rajachari and Tom Marshburn, European Space Agency astronaut Matthias Maurer, Roscosmos cosmonauts Anton Shkaplerov and Pyotr Dubrov, and NASA astronauts Kayla Barron and Mark Vande Hei. Before we went on air today, Pyotr Dubrov aboard the station established a voice contact with Mazurkin aboard the Soyuz.
Alexander, we don't have the video right now. What is the current range and range rate? Copy. Range is 3,200 meters and range rate is 8 meters per second, 1.71077.
Принято.
Copy.
Штатно.
Everything is nominal.
As the Soyuz gets a bit closer to the International Space Station, it will conduct an automated fly-around to precisely align its forward docking probe in the direction of the Poisk docking port. That fly-around will start at a range of about 400 meters from the International Space Station. So the Soyuz will conduct that fly-around before a brief period of station keeping to enable flight controllers in Koryov to take a look and make sure they're happy with the alignment of the Soyuz for its final approach and docking.
Так, ожидаем третью коррекцию.
Standing by for the third orbital correction.
Утверждаю. Текущая дальность.
That's affirmative. Current range is 2,500 meters. And range rate is 7.9 meters per second.
Принято.
Copy.
We're getting a view now from the data that the crew aboard the Soyuz is getting.
Maneuver confirmed. The station has moved to the right and down.
Принято.
Copy.
Ожидаю подвод режима стабил.
Standing by for stabilization mode setup. Indication.
Once that docking occurs this morning, there will be a few moments to allow the relative motion between the two vehicles to dampen out against one another. That will initiate the retraction of the docking probe to bring the two docking interfaces firm against one another and initiate the closing of the hooks.
And X point 45.
Набранный импульс 4,5, выключение.
Coordinates 3 to 4.5. SKD deactivation 4.87.
Принято.
Copy. And I confirm the maneuver.
Текущая дальность 1800.
Current range is 1,800 meters, and the closing rate is 4 meters per second.
I can say ISS. Really? Yeah. Наблюдаю станцию на экране.
I see the station on the video monitor screen.
Принято.
Copy.
Есть обобщенное ГСО, ГСО-1.
GSO in attitude confirmed. GSO 1, 2, 3, and 4. The station is at the center of the crosshairs, and the video monitor range is 1,600 meters, and range rate is 4 meters per second. Copy.
Ну, по вашему усмотрению.
Alexander, per your discretion, you can switch to agency mode. Copy. Thanks.
And there's our first view of the Soyuz MS-20, closing in on the International Space Station on the tail end of its 4-orbit 6-hour journey.
1430, and the range rate is 3 meters per second. Copy.
The Soyuz and the International Space Station just flew into an orbital sunrise over the South Pacific. The Soyuz is currently conducting a series of impulse burns. Those burns are small thruster firings from the engine that will enable the Soyuz to more precisely fine-tune its course to the International Space Station.
Дальность 1220 метров.
Range is 1,220 meters, and range rate is 3.8 meters per second.
Принял. Станция
Copy. The station is at the center of the crosshairs.
Да, тоже наблюдаем по картинке.
Yes, and we confirm that. We can see it on the video. That's good.
Again, good views from an external camera on the station of the Soyuz as it moves steadily toward its target on the Poisk module. Coming up on about 5 minutes from the fly around of the Soyuz. Again, that will come when the Soyuz is about 400 meters from the station. After the fly around, there will be a brief period of station keeping to enable flight controllers in Koryov to take a look and make sure they're happy with the alignment of the Soyuz for its final approach and docking.
Range is 970 meters, range rate 2.6. Copy.
Уменьшаются угловые скорости коррекции.
Angular rates are decreasing. Range is 900 meters and range rate 2.5 meters per second. We are monitoring depot operation.
метров.
850 meters. This is the range. Range rate is 2.3 meters per second.
Принято.
Copy.
800 метров текущая дальность.
Current range is 800 meters. Range rate 2.1. And depot operation LED is off.
Принято.
Omega
Слово
is 4.1.77.
Принято, да.
077. This is the value of the inaudible.
Саш, как оцениваешь по ВКУ?
Alexander. So, what do you think about the ISS image that you have on the monitor? I can only see the contour of the station, and the image itself is not very clear.
670 метров текущая дальность.
Current range is 670 meters.
Fast time. Could you yeah.
The Soyuz MS-20 in view above a solar array aboard the International Space Station, carrying a veteran Russian cosmonaut and 2 Japanese spaceflight participants, now flying over the Pacific Ocean on their way to dock with the International Space Station.
Отлично.
Much better. Excellent.
Отлично. Текущая дальность 500.
Current range is 580 meters. Range rate 1.4 meters per second.
そこずっと押さえたら。Принял.
Copy.
Now under 2 minutes away from the fly around by the Soyuz. Again, that milestone comes about 400 meters from the station.
Stand by for final approach envelope. Current range is 520 meters. Range rate is 1.44 meters per second. Copy.
The Soyuz MS-20 now under 500 meters away from the International Space Station.
Docking です。残り463メーター。450 метров текущая дальность.
Current range is 450 meters. Range rate is 1.4.
Принято.
Copy.
440 meters now separating the Soyuz from the International Space Station. Range is 400 meters, and I confirm that that the mode has changed to that of fly around. Depot operation indication is on. Fly around plane is being generated. Range is 370 meters, and range rate is 1 meter per second. And the fly around is now underway at a range of about 400 meters. All of these events happening right on the timeline, and everything is still proceeding as expected. Again, this fly around of the station will last for just a few minutes, resulting in station keeping for a brief period of time to enable the Russian flight control team to assess the vehicle's systems before they reinitiate the spacecraft's approach for contact and capture, scheduled for 7:41 a.m. Central Time, 8:41 a.m. Eastern.
Alexander, just a reminder, please monitor the K15 parameter, and please provide a running commentary.
And we're in a brief period of handover between satellites. We should be regaining these communications here shortly.
Altair, Moscow. Range is 300 meters. Range rate 0.65 meters per second. 290 meters. This is the current range, and range rate 0.65. Copy all.
Now about halfway through the fly around.
Current range is 270 meters. Range rate 0.64.
Большой диаметр СМ около клетки.
SM large diameter is next to the square on the screen. Copy.
That next milestone of station keeping will come at about 210 meters. The Soyuz now 250 meters away from the International Space Station.
48 meters per second.
И этот К-15, когда загорится, скажи.
Please report when you see that K-15 indication is illuminated. Yes, will do.
метров.
Current range is 230 meters. Range rate is 0.3 meters per second.
$225 meters and closing.
Метров дальше.
Current range is 220 meters. Range rate is 0.17.
Перезагружается у нас. Принято.
INPU 1, control panel INPU 1 is being rebooted.
16:22:20, да?
At 16:22:20. Is that correct time of the reboot? Yes.
Самопроизвольно.
And was it a random reboot? Yes, correct.
Принял.
Copy.
Вышли в верхнюю полусферу станции.
And I am observing MRM2 in the upper sphere of the station, which is also on the screen. Current range is 210 meters, and range rate is 0.13.
Принято.
Copy.
Есть перезагрузка INPU-1.
INPU-1 reboot confirmed.
Принято.
Copy.
ローンチが10時38分。約6時間。ステーションまで200メートル。
The International Space Station and Soyuz flying over the Pacific Ocean, heading toward the northern tip of South America.
Current range is 205 meters, and range rate is near zero. We will continue to fly around towards MRM2. Copy.
Just about 50 degrees left in the fly around.
Состояние слова S.
S parameter is 1.51077.
Ну, этот ДПО включался.
Well, this has to do with the fact that the depot approach and attitude control thrusters were activated.
Soyuz now 200 meters away from the International Space Station.
Current range is 200 meters. Range rate is close to zero. 16, 29, 19. This is the final approach time.
Подтверждаю, 16, 29,
That's correct. 16, 29, 19.
в автоматическом режиме пройдет.
And most likely it will be performed in automatic mode. Could you please repeat your last?
Скорее всего, по времени пройдет.
Saying that it will be performed automatically on time. Copy.
Большой диаметр СМ 1,2.
The large diameter of the service module is approximately the size of 1.2 squares on the screen. Copy.
真下にステーションがいます。スラスターがすごい。Есть К-15 тут в Москве.
K-15 indication is illuminated. Copy. And also course is in approach mode. Yes, that's affirmative. Course is in approach mode. And we are going to perform the role of maneuver. Copy.
The International Space Station and Soyuz now flying over South America.
метров.
Current range is 180 meters. Range rate is 0. Roll maneuver is about to be completed. Copy.
Есть два причала.
Approach flag set on both vehicles. Copy.
The roll maneuver you just heard orients the solar arrays for the docking position.
Along the x-axis is also confirmed. And we were waiting for final approach. Current range is 180 meters and range rate 0.7.
And we have confirmation that final approach has been initiated. Russian flight controllers are happy with the alignment. And again, that final approach has been initiated.
Lights are on, and I'm turning on the headlight now.
Фара включена также.
The headlight is on. Copy.
150 meters now separating the Soyuz from its destination.
метров текущая дальность, скорость на сближение 0,8 Москвы.
So the range is 135 meters and the range rate is 0.8 meters per second. Alexander, we might have LOS at 1634 for about 4 minutes.
Принял.
Copy.
В 34 на 4 минуты.
At 34 for 4 minutes.
Какая вероятность текущая дальность?
Okay, the range is inaudible, 110 meters,
0,64.
and the closing rate is 0.64 meters per second. Copy.
100 метров текущая дальность.
100 meters is the range, and 0.5 is the closing rate.
100メーター切りました。90 метров.
90 meters is the current range. The docking interface in the middle of the VSCA periscope and VCO monitor as well, and the range rate is 0.5 meters per second.
метров
80 meters is the range, and 0.4 meters per second is the range rate.
あと70メートル。でかっ。かっこよすぎる。70 метров текущая.
70 meters is the range. 0.3 meters per second is the rate, and the panel decided to reboot itself once again. Copy.
Now just under 70 meters separating the Soyuz and the International Space Station.
метров.
60 meters is the range.
0,26.
The range rate is 0.26. I can see the target in the center of the crosshairs.
Принято.
Copy.
Есть перезагрузка.
Reboot is confirmed.
Yeah. May I take a picture? Thank you. Так, НТО-1 перезагрузился, да?
15 meters, 0.19 meters per second is the range rate.
Wow. Ява. Так, ожидаем включения ССВП.
We're standing by for unintelligible.
Standing by for contact and capture.
Yeah, sorry. 47 метров.
47 is the range, and the range rate is 0.18 meters per second.
Принято.
Copy, Alexander.
ССВП готово.
SSVP is ready. The probe is extended, the hooks are open, and the transfer hatch is closed. SSVP docking and internal transfer system is ready.
Принял.
Copy.
40 метров текущий.
40 meters is the current range, and the range rate is 0.14 meters per second.
Наблюдаем мишень в центре.
I can see the target in the center of the crosshairs, and crosshairs are aligned.
Принял.
Copy. 34 meters is the range, and the rate is 0.9. The target is in the center, and the crosshairs are aligned. Copy.
You can see the Soyuz docking probe on the bottom of your screen.
метров текущий.
30 meters is the range, and the range rate is 0.8. 0.08. The target is in the center, crosshairs are aligned.
метров.
25 meters is the range, and the range rate is 0.09.
Принял.
Copy.
Инструкция есть готовность ССВП.
So we can see the signature that SSVP is ready. Docking and internal transfer system readiness is on. Copy.
Ждем БАЗ-Р.
We are standing for buzzer.
22 метров.
22 meters is the range, and the range rate is 0.1 meters per second.
метров текущий.
18 meters is the range, and the range rate is 0.12. The crosshairs are aligned. The target is 1 square to the right and lower than the crosshair center. Yes, we can see that.
метров дальность.
The range is 14 meters. The crosshairs are aligned, and the target is in the center.
Принял.
Copy.
метров.
12 meters.
Мишень в центре.
The target is in the center.
скорость на.
The range rate is 0.12 meters per second.
Ширина мишени 2 клетки.
The target width is 2 squares.
Приспособленная мишень в центре.
Crosshairs are aligned. The target is in the center.
Ожидаю.
2.5 squares is the width of the target. We're standing by for the contact. The crosshairs are aligned. The target is in the center.
Ожидаем касания.
Standing by for contact.
Есть касание.
Contact is confirmed. And also we have a docking interface in
Contact and capture confirmed at 7:40 a.m. Central Time, 8:40 a.m. Eastern Time, as the International Space Station and the Soyuz MS-20 flew 260 statute miles over the Atlantic Ocean.
Deactivate the headlight, Alexander. This is Moscow.
Now we'll stand by for the relative motion between the vehicle and the station to slow down before the docking probe is retracted on the Soyuz to enable hooks to close to form a hard mate between the Soyuz and the International Space Station.
Yes, that's correct. 126 in number 1, 203 is in the second section. Propellant 496 kilograms, 496 kilograms. Do you want me to repeat the numbers? No, I have recorded everything. I'm going to page.
Again, docking was confirmed at 7:40 a.m. Central Time, 8:40 a.m. Eastern Time, as the station and the Soyuz MS-20 flew 260 miles over the Atlantic Ocean.
I transferred to the wide-angle lens, and I'm deactivating the headlight. The headlight is off, closing the RPV air supply 1 valve. We confirm RPV 1 is closed, Moscow. And I'm starting the leak check of the modules. Copy, and we'll be standing by for the data from you. For the time 16:42:47 Moscow, the readings are as follows. The SR pressure 832. BO pressure is 8 to 7. Instrument compartment is 864 millimeters. Copy. So the next data recording will be in 5 minutes. Copy, Moscow.
So now the crew aboard the Soyuz will begin leak checks, reporting those numbers back to teams here on the ground.
Deactivated? Yes, it's a go. Copy. So first, let us go to SSVP display, and after that, you will be able to deactivate TV. Okay? I'm on SSVP display. The 9 is not illuminated, Alexander, so it's a go to deactivate television. In work, deactivating TV from input 2 panel. TV is off, OFF. And also please control the SSVP on the display in work. Alexander, please provide running commentary, if possible. Okay, copy. So the electrical connector domated is illuminated. The hooks are open. Is not illuminated. We're standing by for the LED hooks are closed, Moscow. Copy.
And the retraction of the docking probe has been confirmed. Now those hooks will begin driving.
Крюки закрыты,
The hooks are closed. Moscow is confirmed. Copy.
Защелки выдвинуты.
And we now have confirmation that the Soyuz hooks are closed, and we have a hard mate between the Soyuz MS-20 and the International Space Station.
Защелки втянуты.
I am standing by for the latches are retracted. LED. Yes, we're standing by for gas 17 command going through.
User. Yes. Could you please? Okay. Put it back to 350 or charge your tablet. I see. Саш, 5-минутный замер.
Alexander, 5 minutes have passed, so could you please report the data?
Подтверждает суд Москвы.
I'm ready, Moscow. After 5 minutes, the SR pressure is stable, no change. In BO, no change.
ПО также без изменений.
And in instrument compartment module, also no change. So delta 0. So the next one will be in 10 minutes, and there are people at Baikonur Cosmodrome who would like to talk to you. Copy.
Защелки втянуты, суд Москвы.
The latches are retracted. Moscow signature is on. Copy. Alexander Alexandrovich, this is Rogozin. Good afternoon. Do you copy? Dmitry Olegovich, yes, I copy loud and clear. So, of course, our heartfelt congratulations with the successful docking to the ISS. So, how are our Japanese friends feeling?
I'm really fine. This is MZ.
This is MZ. I'm fine.
Спасибо. Все в порядке, Дмитрий Олегович.
Everything is fine, Dmitry Olegovich. We are working the procedures. Thank you. So please pass on our best regards to them and of the successful mission under your guidance on board the ISS.
Принял, спасибо.
Copy. Thank you. Guys, so our congratulations with the successful docking. Everything was in auto mode. We were watching you. You know, the time flew so fast. It was just so not ago at all. You know, when we were seeing you off at the Cosmodrome, and now you are on the station. Thank you, Sergey. So Moscow, the SSVP mode is executed, the probe is retracted, and I'm sending the command to deactivate SSVP. Copy. And could you please confirm that S13 is illuminated? Yes. The electrical connectors are mated, is illuminated. Copy. Then SSVP should be deactivated. Yes, it is deactivated. So I'm doing the recording in the log. On both INPU
Конечно.
Yes, of course.
It's oxygen. Запись журнала сделал.
So the recording of the log is complete, and I'm standing by for the 15-minute leak check data. Yes, we confirm.
Можем выдавать команды Г2, В-18.
Is it a go?
And that completes the Soyuz MS-20's flawless launch to dock that began with its liftoff from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan at 1:38 a.m. Central Time, 2:38 a.m. Eastern Time, carrying veteran cosmonaut Alexander Mazurkin and Japanese spaceflight participants Yusaku Maezawa and Yozo Hirano.
Reading, and then you will proceed as per page 68, copy in work.
The Soyuz MS-20 lifted off atop a Soyuz 2.1A booster, which performed a series of nominal burns to propel the Soyuz into its preliminary orbit for a 4-orbit, 6-hour journey to the International Space Station. And the Soyuz docked to the Poisk module on the Russian segment of the International Space Station at 7:40 a.m. Central Time, 8:40 a.m. Eastern Time, as the Soyuz and this station were flying 260 statute miles above the Atlantic Ocean. The docking probe on the Soyuz retracted, and hooks closed on both sides of the docking interface to form a hard mate between the Soyuz MS-20 and the International Space Station. After docking just moments ago, the crew received some congratulatory words from Dmitry Rogozin, the head of Roscosmos from Baikonur. The crew will now begin a series of leak checks, which should result in the opening of the hatches between the Soyuz and the International Space Station around 9:35 a.m. Central Time, 10:35 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back on air for hatch opening coverage at 9:15 a.m. Central Time, 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll follow along as leak and pressure checks are conducted and the repressurization of the vestibule, which is the small passageway between the Soyuz and the station. That will lead to the opening of the hatches and the greetings between the Expedition 66 crew members and the Soyuz crew we see today. So we hope you'll join us back here at 9:15 a.m. Central Time for our hatch opening coverage for the Soyuz MS-20. For now, that'll wrap up our rendezvous and docking coverage. This is Mission Control Houston.
The Rescue Coordination Center started receiving distress signals.
The bridge was starting to fill up with water. The ship was sinking and got them out on top of the rescue boat.
Winds up to 60, 70 knots.
We started to separate one by one.
Wave height 50 to 60 feet.
Finally, I was alone and no rescue boat or nothing. The rescue boat drifted away.
It's freezing out there.
All I had to do was just wait and hope some kind of miracle would happen.
There is almost no chance to survive in conditions like that.
AIS, the automatic identification system, all ships out on the open oceans are obliged to transmit their position and their identity and their direction of speed, heading and speed, etc. It's kind of like air traffic control for the sea.
It's very useful to help provide assistance to ships in distress.
First of all, to see, do we have assets in the area that could help somebody in distress. In the days before AIS, we didn't even know if there were any vessels in a particular area where we have an incident.
They were more or less invisible to the coastal traffic administration.
But as of today, if we have an incident out in open water, we have the chance to see what vessels are in the area and could contact them directly to route them to the position or the distress, and in that way, in a more effective way, rescue more people within a shorter time frame than we ever have before.
AIS receiving stations along the coast, they can only look a certain distance out into the sea.
Ships that go out beyond 75 kilometers outside the coast were over the horizon and invisible to us. But if you think about these signals going straight, they go maybe several hundred kilometers out into space. And you know what circles around the Earth about 400 kilometers above us? The International Space Station.
The European Space Agency contacted the Norwegian Defence Research Establishment and gave them the opportunity to mount an AIS receiver on board the space station to test out this technology from space. All our calculations indicated that this should work, but we really did not know before we switched on the receiver on the space station. 1st of June 2010, the system was turned on.
And the switch was flipped and the light came on and we were actually able to get the first data in. Yes, the instrument works.
We all got very excited.
And suddenly we could see a whole world full of ship data. It was I would say, a quantum leap really in our ability to look at global ship traffic.
It's like a blind man starting to see.
Yeah, it was a huge relief and great satisfaction to see.
So this brought a whole new dimension to the monitoring of ship traffic on the open oceans.
Nobody knew how many ships really are out there at any given time, and suddenly we had, if not the complete picture, then almost the complete picture.
On a typical day, the space station is observing about 30,000 ships out on the open ocean.
I was kind of overwhelmed, I guess, by the response that's got. The space station really is an excellent lab for testing this type of technology.
This project demonstrates that the International Space Station is not just for science and astronauts, but it really benefits the whole mankind with down-to-earth applications.
Based on the AIS, we had another vessels in the area that we contacted who continued to the area, and they searched together with the helicopters. Nobody expected to find anybody surviving in that conditions. They actually spotted one man in the sea.
After floating in the North Atlantic Ocean for 4 hours, I was finally rescued.
Thanks to AIS data and AIS data from the space station, This lone survivor was rescued. A absolutely happy ending for him.
And luckily for technology that made something that was basically impossible to survive possible.
What happens if you wake up in the morning and you understand the state of the world as it is right now?
What could that data enable? How could people make smarter decisions? How could, for example, a farmer get better yield on his or her crops? How could somebody help disaster response? How can we use satellites to help humanity? That in many ways was the underlying thesis of doing Planet Labs, was to get data into the hands of people that could enable us to make smarter responses to that.
Planet Labs set out with the mission to photograph the entire Earth every day. And they thought, how are we going to do this? They said, let's build our own satellite.
Commercial imaging satellites, they're very large. They are very expensive. We took a different approach.
By making them really small, we can launch lots of them, and by launching lots of them, we can cover this, to get to this mission of imaging the whole Earth every day.
If we can do that, then we can literally change the way that we see the world.
And they called it the Dove. It's about the size of a loaf of bread.
Our doves are basically mainly a big camera with a telescope looking down to take pictures of the Earth. We initially developed the first Dove satellite in our garage. So we kept on iterating the Dove design, we made it better and better, and eventually we put our first one into space. We had no idea what the quality would be like.
I mean, we didn't know if it was going to work.
But we got an image down and it was so beautiful that we knew at that point we could make this technology work.
Wow, we can really do this, and we can achieve this mission, which is something that is really needed for us to understand global change.
So we had done a couple of demonstration satellites, but the next steps we wanted to do was to scale it up, to test the first fleets of satellites.
But what made that possible was actually access to space.
So here's the problem, that in order to take pictures of the entire Earth every day, you're gonna need more than one or two satellites. You're gonna need a whole lot of satellites, and you're gonna need to be able to deploy them really fast. And really, there's only one obvious choice on how to deploy that, and that's the International Space Station.
There was no other platform in the world in order to get access to space of that fashion in that time period than the International Space Station.
NanoRacks is our key partner with NASA.
At NanoRacks, we understood Planet Labs' vision, and we knew that we could help. We worked together to figure out what was going to be the best way to get as many satellites as possible, and we basically developed a new platform. It goes out of the GIM airlock. It's picked up by a robotic arm, pointed out into space, and it fires these little satellites off of the space station.
They were able to secure 28 of our satellites to be launched from the International Space Station, and that was known as Flock 1, our first constellation.
This opened up the whole world to satellite developers, people that could put things into orbit fast.
We now deploy these on a regular basis from the International Space Station. And now today, we're able to operate the largest fleet of Earth imaging satellites in human history.
And none of that would have been possible without the International Space Station.
The International Space Station does enable young, small companies like ourselves to get going in space.
The ISS provides a lot of opportunities for commercial companies to test and find where the market in space is going to be.
And so what we're seeing today is a proliferation of new ideas and new concepts. It's almost like it's a renaissance of what's happening in space. Buckle up and strap down, because this is going to be a rocket for all of us in the global community to be part of.
The first pictures now coming in from Puerto Rico after taking a direct hit. Hurricane Maria slamming into the island. One official saying the island is destroyed.
Hours with winds and rain, and didn't stop. Power lines are down. Streets are impassable. Many roads are flooded.
High winds uprooting trees, overturning cars, and turning buildings into piles of twisted metal.
It is something that will change Puerto Rico forever.
We had no water, no food, no gasoline, no communication at all.
Not knowing where my next meal will come from, it hasn't been easy.
After Hurricane Maria, everything was gray, all the plants were dead. Hurricane Maria took the color away from us.
I am sure that these children will not be the same. They will not be the same. They are still struggling and trying to recover from this.
My name is Joe Acaba. I'm a NASA astronaut of Puerto Rican descent. I was about a week into my mission on the International Space Station. Hurricane Maria was forming up, and from there, if you looked out the window, you know, Maria took up a big chunk of what we could see. It was going to cover the entire island. After the hurricane, their power grid was pretty much taken out. You know, you just couldn't see the island anymore. The hurricane, I think, had a huge impact on, you know, the island as a whole, but especially the kids.
Joe Acaba was our hero, and we need something positive. The students need something positive.
We wanted to pull through, forget all that happened, and lift up our spirits and lift off the island.
So I knew I couldn't do much from up on the International Space Station, but I did want to connect with the students to show them that there is hope and that there are people out there that care about them.
NASA has the STEM station, which allows the students and teachers to talk to the astronaut in the space station.
It's making that connection so that maybe, you know, they become more interested and we can inspire them more to study the STEM fields.
So we were able to establish and coordinate with NASA one of these video conferences. Thousands of students from different parts of the island watching the video conference with the space station, talking to Joe.
This is Joe aboard the International Space Station. I have you loud and clear.
How do you compare?
What is the most impressive? How did Puerto Rico look?
Are astronauts allowed to visit? How often?
What is the minimum number of?
It was awesome because, you know, as soon as it came up, you could hear people clapping, people were excited. So even though I couldn't see them, you know, I could feel them, and that was pretty neat.
It was amazing. He called from the International Space Station to see how Puerto Rico was doing, and that means a lot for us, a lot.
In May of 2018, I was able to go back to the island, my first time since the hurricane. It was a great opportunity to get out and kind of come full circle with those students, to go and see them in person and, you know, kind of reiterate how important they are and just to give them a little bit more hope because there's still a long way to go on the island.
He's a hero for us. Kids love him, and everybody loves him here. Joe Acaba is the role model that we need at this time.
I want to be like him. I want to go far, and I want to be an example for little kids when I'm older.
Not only is the International Space Station a great tool for scientific research and exploration, but for students from Puerto Rico in particular, I think that having that video conference with them, it did provide some hope. It did provide some inspiration. And so it's just one of the benefits that we get from the International Space Station.
To support International Space Station, we're constantly having to build new hardware to send to space, but as well, we need to make training hardware on the ground. So we ask ourselves, what if we got high school students to build us some training hardware and get them out of the textbook, get them some hands-on lessons to work with And by doing that, we'll be inspiring the next generation of students. So that's when we decided to create Hunch. Hunch goes to the local high schools, partners with the high schools, and gives these students opportunities to design, build hardware that'll fly in space or be used for training hardware on the ground. Students did the design and engineering, the CAD drafting, the 3D print prototyping, the machining, the procurement of the hardware. All this done by high school students to get this article to fly in space. From the quality perspective, the students have exceeded all of our expectations. The hardware we're getting in is top notch.
This program actually helps them focus into the engineering and the STEM fields.
I've been teaching for 23 years. I've never seen anything that even remotely compares to having the type of impact on students that Hunch has had. Absolutely phenomenal.
Working with the Hunch program, we fabricated training hardware for the ISS.
I created and designed interactive simulations.
We're making a Mexican paella and hopefully gets chosen to go to the International Space Station. From the Hunch program, I've learned how to use AutoCAD.
We learned a lot of teamwork.
I've definitely gained some communication skills.
We're learning more about food science, technology, but everything basically doing this.
It gives them a confidence that I don't think they would have had to that level before this.
Maybe I would actually be able to be an engineer. So it was never something that I'd thought that much about. And then I was working on this stuff that went to space, and I couldn't think of anything more exciting. And I still can't.
It's a pretty cool thing to be able to tell other people or family when you go visit that, oh, I work with NASA programs.
I mean, I told everybody, like literally everybody.
We have an opportunity here for them that is unbelievable.
It's kind of like getting a master's at age 16.
They truly have moved on to a level they wouldn't have approached or wouldn't reach, I believe, without this program and without the International Space Station.
Before the Hunch program, I really was just a C student with no direction in my life. And since then, I've been on the Dean's List for the past 4 years and will be transferring to pursue mechanical engineering.
It really helped me find my passion for aerospace. The Hunch program gave me my career.
The impact on their lives has been amazing. They're more successful, they're more driven, they're more determined. They know they can achieve. And that's all, I think, through this program, through the Hunch program and interaction with the International Space Station.
There's one thing that stands between us and the harsh environment of space, our atmosphere, the part of Earth that sustains all life. But here, in the closest town to the North Pole, it's slowly leaking away. A team headed there to launch rockets into the leak, but it's not the lack of atmosphere that they're concerned about. The leak is a natural process that will take billions of years, so we're not going to run out anytime soon. It's part of the larger story of how a planet's atmosphere changes over time, a key factor in the search for life on other planets.
We have 35 residents and 60 of our team together in a town that is completely isolated. There's a plane twice a week, and there's 1,000 polar bears nearby.
This is Doug Rowland, a NASA scientist who's taken his team to Ny-Ålesund on the island of Svalbard. The island lies beneath one of two regions near Earth's poles called the cusps. It's where we can access space directly, and where 100 tons of atmosphere escapes into space each day. This escape gives clues to how long an atmosphere will last, and ultimately, whether it stays around long enough to sustain life.
What we're trying to understand is how did Earth's atmosphere evolve over time? And how do other planets that might be like Earth or more dissimilar to Earth, how did their atmospheres evolve?
So Doug joined forces with Göran Moen, a professor at the University of Oslo, who started the Grand Challenge Initiative, CUSP. It's an international mission to launch 12 rockets into the Earth's northern cusp. And Doug, he's the mission leader for the first 2 rockets of the campaign.
We don't want to waste our rocket. Because it takes us 3 years to make the rocket, only 15 minutes to use it, and I don't want to waste my shot here.
He's using a sounding rocket, which is different from the bigger rockets that carry satellites and humans into space. It's a small suborbital rocket that flies briefly into space, collects real-time data for around 15 minutes, then falls back to Earth. It's affordable, quick to build, and can launch towards a precise point.
The major advantage is that you can launch into a target on the sky.
But there's a limited launch window and only one chance to get the launch right.
We have these unguided rockets. They go where you point them, unless the wind is blowing, because the wind literally just blows them over. We don't launch when there's high wind.
So to measure the winds, they launch balloons with GPS trackers. They're released every 15 to 30 minutes, and then they're monitored to see how fast the winds are carrying them.
The ground winds were 12, 13 meters per second, gusting 17, which is way off.
You're filled with trepidation. Oh my gosh, this thing that I built, is it going to work after all this? So I think we're going to scrub for today. I'd like to thank everyone. I think it was a great performance. Thanks a lot.
This means that we are scrubbing this operation for today and we'll try again tomorrow.
The mission is named Visualizing Ion Outflow via Neutral Atom Sensing 2, or VISIONS 2. In short, they're looking at how oxygen is getting enough energy to escape.
It's a good test of how atmospheric escape works. Earth's gravity should hold onto the oxygen, and yet we see this gas shooting off into space. We're trying to figure out how that works.
That is a science question that has been hanging around for 4 decades.
Fortunately, anyone can see atmospheric escape at the right place and time.
In Svalbard, we have the so-called polar night. It's dark all 24 hours.
This continual darkness is key for witnessing this. This is the cusp aurora. It's a type of northern lights that appears between 8 a.m. and noon, and you can only see it when it's dark during the day. It looks similar to the aurora that occurs at night, but when these iridescent colors dance at this hour each day, 100 tons of oxygen escapes from Earth's atmosphere into space.
This is our sport now to chase the aurora.
Working with them is the ISCAT radar and Kjell Henriksen Observatory. They have additional instruments to find the aurora.
Sometimes it's cloudy, so we use radars to track the cusp. We can give advice that this is the right type of aurora.
This is the Wall of Science, a collection of data from satellites and ground instruments that helps them predict where the cusp aurora will be.
So the cusp actually isn't a fixed point in space, it kind of moves around.
What's controlling the cusp's movement is the sun interacting with Earth. Our planet is surrounded by a magnetic field that helps us hold on to our atmosphere. But at the north and south poles, the magnetic field bends inwards, creating a corridor between Earth and space.
When energy is released from the sun via a solar flare or coronal mass ejection, all of that energy in the form of radiation rides down the magnetic field lines of the Earth and is transferred and dumped into the Earth's atmosphere.
Electrons cascade into Earth's atmosphere. They accelerate and collide with oxygen particles, giving them energy to release light and sometimes enough energy to escape. Collectively, this forms the cusp aurora and streams of escaping oxygen.
This cusp is in constant motion.
And we've got a fixed trajectory. We really can't aim at where the cusp is. We have to wait for the cusp to come across our line of sight. Can you guys hear Chelmar? We'd like you, as soon as you see an indication the cusp is moving close, to move it, the radar dish if we can.
This is ISCAT. It's been very quiet, very difficult to launch.
Do you think we're gonna launch today?
No. Probably about a 60% chance of launching.
When we started seeing this really good data, this clock started counting down, and that's when everyone realized this is going to happen. We're going to launch.
We're doing everything we can to get that launch off before the aurora goes away. It is really, really challenging and nerve-wracking at that point. You can see the tension just rise in everybody when that happens.
And so everyone's watching their instruments, getting really excited, and then at T-minus 1 minute, all of us ran out to go see the launch happen. And then we immediately turned around and ran right back in to look at all the data that was coming back from the instruments. You know how much time and effort went into it because we all worked on it, and there's just nothing that compares to that feeling.
Everybody in every one of those little places, you know, really just so happy to contribute to getting this science. It's really an incredible experience.
This is a story about what it takes to launch science instruments into space, but the real adventure will be in the data they sent back. Hidden within the numbers will be answers that reach far beyond Earth, shedding light on how atmospheres throughout the universe change, evolve, and perhaps support life.
It's extremely exciting. In my lectures, there are always young people in the audience, and they always want to know when they're bringing it back, you know. And I always say, I don't think ever. I think NASA, you know, they realizes that they have two marks, so to speak, but somehow they can be made to coexist. We had to analyze what had been done by NASA in the past. Finally, we realized that we had to have a unifier, something that was very strong, hold it all together. So over the process of working on it over the first month, I think we got simpler and simpler with our solutions so that it would work miles away on a T-38 or a rocket or a space shuttle. We were trying to embody in the logo innovation. You know, the organization still had aeronautics as well as space, and so that you see a kind of nose cone design inside of the A's and propulsion, kind of upward thrust. Great simplicity, but still movement.
Roger, roll, Discovery.
The term worm came out of Florida in a newspaper down there, and it was meant to be derogatory, and I personally thought it was very derogatory. And eventually, over the years, the worm became a term of endearment, but it wasn't meant that at all in the beginning. When they started producing apparel a couple of years ago, they found out how young people in particular really like this program, and so they've allowed it to kind of come back to life on its own. It's validation, I think, of the sort of timeless approach that we brought to this. Space is about the future, and if we can still hang in there, and if it still represents that, then it's quite a victory, I think. You know, aesthetics aside, the goal was to do that, to hold up for decades, and apparently it's still, it's got better legs today than it did then.
And with the #1 overall pick in the Kennedy Space Center NFL Draft, NASA selects Jacksonville Jaguar quarterback and aerospace engineer Josh Dobbs. Next on the Rocket Ranch.
BGS Program Chief Engineer, verifying no constraints to launch.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff.
Welcome to space.
NASA's internship program now has an NFL quarterback in its ranks. Josh Dobbs of the Jacksonville Jaguars has a degree in aerospace engineering, and thanks to the NFL Players Association's externship program, he is now working as an intern at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida this offseason. Josh took a few minutes out of his hectic schedule to share his unique insights on NASA and life in the NFL. Please note, this was recorded in studio prior to the current social distancing guidelines. I'm here at Kennedy Space Center in the audio booth with Joshua Dobbs, NFL quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Thank you so much for being here, bud.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Started playing football when you were 5 years old. You played high school ball for the Alpharetta Raiders of Alpharetta, Georgia. Went on to have a great career at the University of Tennessee, where you were a starter for several winning seasons in 2015, 2016, won some bowl games. You were drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 4th round of the 2017 NFL Draft. After several seasons with the Steelers, you were traded to the nearby Jacksonville Jaguars as a quarterback for the team. And what's so interesting to our audience is that currently you're doing an internship with the engineering department. Is that right?
That is right.
At NASA's Kennedy Space Center. And folks, why is that? Because Josh busted out a 4.0. Not in the 40. Of course, I don't know that
that would
anybody...
have been cool.
Yeah, has anybody ever run a 4?
That would have been the fastest ever, right there.
Right, that's true. 4.2, right? 4.4, 4.40. Yeah.
Right.
But you had a 4.0 in your grade point average and in the aerospace engineering major at UT. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Bringing the brains and the bronze.
Brains and the bronze, yes,
I
sir.
love it. Well, so tell me, Joshua, you're here doing this internship. Kind of help me understand how you've been able to play football and keep a fascination with space.
It's been definitely a process. When I was younger, I attribute a lot of my success and habits I created to my parents. I grew up an only child, so quickly at an early age, they kind of taught me, one, obviously excel in the classroom. That comes first, but then they also pushed me to doing different experiences, participate in different activities that I would enjoy outside of school. So they helped me figure out that I love football by placing me in just about every single sport you could place your kid in when he's 5 years old. So, the different experience that I had growing up and being able to juggle football, baseball, basketball, along with taking accelerated classes and then being in the band. I was in karate. I was in chorus. I've learned I couldn't sing, but I was in chorus.
Oh, yeah? You can sing, huh?
I can't sing. Cannot sing. Cannot sing. So don't put me on the spot.
But you took chorus to find out.
To find out, right. Okay. So I did all of those, and I kept up with extreme workload from elementary school, middle school, high school. So as the stage grew and things got more difficult, the habits that I created when I was younger or what I was able to fall back on when time management was key in college. Being able to juggle playing SEC football at the quarterback position and also being an engineer definitely called for long days, long periods.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
SEC quarterback, starting quarterback
yes,
for the Tennessee Volunteers, and at the same time in the aerospace engineering school. Like, how did you do that?
Well, I'll be a fool to one say that I did it by myself because Tennessee gave us a great framework when we got to school with different study halls and giving us different tutors and mentors that are in our field so we're able to learn and learn the way of the land. But also it took, determination. I think, on a daily basis, you're in class from 9 till 2, then practice is from 2, then meetings are from 2 to 4, practice from 4 to 6, then you have post-workout, post-film, and then you're in study hall, and then you're to the library, and then you wake up and repeat process the next day, and you have to eat throughout the day. So I think I closed down the library just about every single day of my college career. But
wow.
Again, it was the habits that I was able to form when I was younger, learning how to manage my time, be productive, be disciplined, and understanding when I came to college, I came there for a reason that, hey, I want to play football at the highest level, but I also want to pursue an engineering degree that I know that I will enjoy. It's something that I'm very intrigued with. I want to learn more. I want to be an engineer. So being able to juggle two things I was extremely passionate about, made it not suffering, but made it very enjoyable.
Fascinating. People are going to be so amazed to hear that how you juggled all those things, but you give credit to your parents who kind of helped you instill some good habits in you at a very young age, which is pretty cool. What are you going to be doing here?
at KSC?
So thus far, it's been pretty much a whirlwind of a week. I started off in the KEXI division where I was working in instrumentation. Spent a day, shadowing them, seeing, the hazardous gas detection system, learning about the wind profile that they have for launch day, just learning about the weather protection system on the mobile launcher. So just seeing different things and understanding how the instrumentation works from an electrical point of view. And then from there, it's kind of been every single day, it's been a different opportunity where I've gone from there to I've gone to flight accessories, so seeing the different umbilicals, how they work, how they secure the rocket to the mobile launcher, to seeing different tests that they're performing on the instrumentation, to then learning about the core stage and how it's going through the screen run testing. And
talking about the SLS, the next generation world's most powerful rocket that we're going to use to send people back to the moon.
And then to Mars.
Yeah.
So it's been a whirlwind. I've learned about the SLS, the whole space program, the Artemis project, Orion, which goes on top of SLS.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a whirlwind of a week. I've kind of seen, I think, all of KSC, but I know the next couple of days I'll continue to see more, and I'll continue to have my mind expanded by what's going on here. And it's truly amazing to see the innovation that's going on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And the space history that's here when you're told that, like, this is where the rockets took off and took Americans to the moon for the first time. What's your sense of the history here?
That's so humbling, because I'm connecting with the history just because, just growing up, being so interested in engineering, like the history is what you look up every single day. You're like, oh, wow, this is what we're doing. This is where we've come from. So then to be able to be here on the footsteps of where it all happened, where the innovation happened, where the science happened, where the engineering happened, and where the launches actually took place to take the people first to space and then to the moon, now to the International Space Station, where they'll take place to go to Mars. It's kind of, it sends chills down your back. I honestly, driving in every single morning and just seeing, because I'm at OSB 1, so it's the one right next to the VAB.
Right.
So
and
driving
the vehicle assembly building, the iconic building. Yeah.
Driving in and parking in front of that building every single day, it really wakes you up when you get here. You get here at like 7 a.m., but you get out of the car and you see that. It's like, wow, there's so many people that have come before me that have paved the way to what's going on here at NASA now. So just to, I know I'm not here from a long time, but to be here and just get a glimpse and be able to touch, what's going on here, it's truly an amazing experience.
Now, you've only been here a short period of time. And for those who, if you've never met Josh Dobbs, he comes across, I just met him a few, minutes ago, but you come across as a very polite, very gracious with your time kind of person. But now you're coming in as a professional quarterback to a lot of people who are engineers, who might be big football fans, fantasy football fans, like whatever, right? They're gonna be like, "Oh, dude, can I have this? Are you gonna get any work done? Like, how do you kind of give them a little stiff arm without being rude?"
You obviously, you give them both. Everyone wants to talk about football. I mean, It's like America's favorite pastime, and we're in like football central USA right here. Yeah. So everyone loves talking about the game, which I don't mind. I love talking about the game. But like the first couple of days, I also say I'm here to learn the life of an engineer, because that's also part of who I am. I'm an engineer. I studied aerospace engineering, so I want to see the day in the life of an engineer. So it's funny. The first day we were mapping out, everything that I was going to do here, and they were saying, "Oh, you don't want to go to the meetings. Let's just show you the cool stuff." I said, "Okay, I want to see the cool stuff, but also, I truly want to sit in on the engineering meeting where you're discussing different things that are going on with the projects and different instrumentation that you have to test. I want to see the logistics side of it to understand what it means to be an engineer. Maybe I'm sitting there shadowing you doing your desk busy work, but that's still interesting to me, because I want to see, not being able to be around this field a lot in the real world, I want to see what it's like to be an engineer for a day. So I kind of taking it all in, whether it's the cool stuff where you're at the VAB, the vertical assembly building, where you're out at the pad, where the launch pad, or whether you're just sitting in the office doing normal desk work, it's all, you want to see it. It's all enjoyable to me.
You mentioned meetings. Now NASA likes meetings.
They do like
meetings. We got to have
meetings and acronyms. I've learned that quickly. Those are two hot topics here, for sure.
Almost like another language.
It is.
To speak.
I started looking up the dictionary online. I'll just write down acronyms in my notebook and then just look it up online and then go home and that's what they were talking about.
Okay, now I know what it is.
Now I get it. Now
don't ever be afraid to ask for an acronym, because everybody knows it out here. Like, hey, you got to get this figured out. Well, so So what about the pro football part? I mean, right now you're a professional quarterback in the NFL for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So what's your goals? What's your aim there?
I aim there. So obviously I was traded from the Steelers to Jacksonville at the beginning of last season due to injuries and then logistics, and then also the NFL is a business, so you have to respect that side of it as well. And my goal is to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. There's only 32 of them, and I want to be one of those 32. So that's what I'm working for every single day. It's funny, you go from engineering all day to then going over to the gym. You got to get your workout in. So days obviously can get stretched out, but it goes back to college. I understand how it is to juggle both sides of it. How is it to work toward a dream, to work toward a goal. So every single day I'm stacking chips, whether it's right now in the engineering world, but then also making sure I'm getting my training, my conditioning to be able to be prepared once our off-season regiment starts in April. Hit the ground running and be able to go in and dominate once the season comes.
Oh, I love to hear that. Well, so these two goals here, becoming a starting quarterback in the NFL and then possibly an aerospace engineer, it's tough to imagine how you can keep that going forward. But to be clear, very difficult to get the internship. So how do these two branches keep them going at the same time?
Well, of course, right now I'm a professional football player, and that's my focus. But the beauty about being a professional football player in the NFL and the NFLPA is they provide you with opportunities like this, an externship where you can go and take 3 weeks of your time in the off season to immerse yourself into a field of your interest. So to have these 3 weeks to immerse myself into the engineering world is amazing. And then once this finishes and we're back to the grind where you're back on your training regimen every single day, throwing, lifting, running. You're taking each year and you're just building chips. So, obviously, like most interns, I'm not able to spend an extended amount of time, but I'll be able to have this opportunity to first learn everything that's going on at KSC, be able to see the big picture and see different subsystems. And then next year, I'll be able to grow on that. So, obviously, people think of like goals and they want instant gratification. Like, all right, I got to do both now, right? So I'm working on one now and then playing the long run for the other one. So it works out pretty well, just seeing the big picture.
Taking the small pieces step by step to get your goals. You're right, because it's very hard to realize a big goal like becoming an aerospace engineer all at once.
Especially at NASA, right?
Right, right. So what do you think about the new Artemis program? This is the one where we're seeking to land a woman, the first woman, and the next man on the moon by 2024. That's just 4 years away. When you hear that, and you know that there's going to be a ton of engineering that kind of gets behind this, we've gone to the moon before, but really going to the moon this time is to help build
for
that
the next step,
right for Mars. So what kind of what do you think about a goal that big that NASA has set?
I think it's amazing. I think it's obviously been a while since we've gone to the moon, and obviously there's a lot of reasons behind that. We were building an International Space Station, we were doing other missions, but for that to be a goal and just to see how that goal is basically the framework, the support to the next goal, the springboard to go into Mars, I think is extremely exciting. And I think the most interesting thing that I've seen on a daily basis is when you go out and you're a part of the different subsystems and you're interacting with the different engineers, the stuff that they're doing when they're building the mobile launcher and when they're assembling this rocket, it's stuff that's never been done before. That's what's so amazing about it. It's not like they're coming here and mass producing a piece that operates on a daily basis. They're literally building a rocket to do something that it's never done before and that has never been done in mankind. So it's special, right? It's almost mind blowing. It's like, wow, like it's like something you see in movies. It's truly mind blowing. So,
I often find myself when I'm walking around the Space Center, particularly inside the VAB, and I'm looking at those massive structures, like I feel like I'm on the set of Star Wars.
Well, you know the movie Pacific Rim where they have like that's what it feels like, the ginormous ceiling, Star Wars as well. You're walking around there, you're just like a kid in a zoo almost. It's amazing just because of the innovation and then being able to like have an engineering background, just knowing what it takes. It's taking stuff that you learned in school, stuff that you've learned on the job, but it's also being able to use those and critically think to solve problems that have never been solved before.
There's such a reward to that, isn't there? I think that's kind of like what's central to engineering is having a problem and finding that unique solution. Is there a particular type of problem that you would enjoy helping NASA solve?
honestly, any problem. It was actually interesting. Yesterday I was over with the virtual reality team where they take your body dimensions and they immerse you into different environments. So like whether you're like an astronaut or someone working on the mobile launcher, you can see the stuff like actually work, in the space, right? So I get a chance to spend extended time with them a little later. But that was so interesting because I'm thinking like, just how applicable that is to like every situation, whether it's here at NASA or in sports, like just virtually seeing yourself in different situations and being able to take those mental reps. So whether you get out on the mobile launcher and you're trying to make an adjustment, or you're an astronaut trying to just fit in the spacecraft, there's so many applications for that software, for that technology, and I think like really the sky's the limit for that. Just be able to virtually see stuff and get mental reps at it. So it's definitely interesting.
All right, Joshua Dobbs, you're working some long days, interning by day here at Kennedy Space Center and getting ready for the NFL season coming up as a quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We wish you great success, and we thank you very much for being here. And listen, we know you're going to be fantastic, but if someday down the road, when you leave the NFL and you decide to come to NASA Kennedy, we got dibs on you for the flag football team, all right?
That's the deal.
We got a deal?
No other NASA site will stand a chance.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Joshua, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm Daryl Nail, and that's our show. Thanks for stopping by the Rocket Ranch. And special thanks to our guest, Joshua Dobbs. To learn more about NASA's intern program, visit intern.nasa.gov. And to learn more about everything going on at KSC, go to nasa.gov/Kennedy. And check out NASA's other podcasts to learn more about what's happening at all of our centers at nasa.gov/podcasts. A special shout out to our producer, John Sackman, our sound man, Lauren Maythree, and our editor, Michelle Stone. And remember, on the Rocket Ranch,
on December 17, 1903, two brothers from Dayton, Ohio, would alter human history forever. On that day, Wilbur and Orville Wright flew their wooden and canvas machine off the sandy dunes in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, becoming the first to flight. Heavy experimentations with gliders, like advancements in engine technologies, controls, and aerodynamics, provided a pathway for heavier-than-air crafts, like the Wright brothers' flyer. By the 1930s, airships, which have dominated the long-distance flight, were replaced by flying boats and other rudimentary aircraft. By the 1930s and 40s, development of aircraft for war effort greatly accelerated infusion of new technologies into civilian general aviation. This stream of innovation led to the start of the jet age, which would revolutionize both general and military aviation. Later in the 20th century, even more advanced technologies like digital electronics would bring about fly-by-wire, digital engine controls, GPS, and these advancements even changed the way we go about designing aircrafts. This century has been marked by transitioning to large-scale pilotless drones, and for the first time ever, inherently unstable aircrafts, such as highly integrated flying wings, have become a possibility. And with all these advancements in the past 112 years, we're still only scratching the surface of capability and performance, but we're paying a heavy price for lagging innovation. Who here has traveled by air in the past 6 months? Were you surprised by the cost and time of your trip? Today we find ourselves at the doorstep of yet another revolutionary advancement in aviation history: electric or hybrid electric aircrafts. NASA is investing in electrified aircraft propulsion research, or EAP, as part of its portfolio to improve fuel efficiency, emissions, and noise levels in commercial transport aircrafts. EAP uses electric motors to drive some or all of the engines on an aircraft. The energy source for the system can be electric, hybrid, or turboelectric. NASA is working across a range of markets, from urban air mobility to subsonic transport. Each market has differences in vehicle size, range, and speeds. Our strategy at NASA is to work with our industry partners to enable technology development, demonstrate these technologies in flight, and transfer the knowledge to commercial sector for future products and markets. One such emerging market is urban air mobility, developed through NASA's revolutionary vertical lift technology project. Urban air mobility, or UAM, is a conceptual market that would enable passenger-carrying air transportation in and around metropolitan areas. Think of flying Ubers. These vehicles could use all-electric or hybrid-electric propulsion systems capable of vertical takeoff and landing. The overarching goal of NASA's work in this space is to develop and validate tools, technologies, and concepts to overcome key challenges for vertical lift vehicles. A critical challenge for UAM market growth is public's acceptance that these vehicles can be as safe as commercial air travel or automotive transportation. However, the most immediate impact from NASA's work for the flying public is the reduction in cost through fuel burn improvements and lower airfare prices. To put that in context, let's look at some numbers. The overall global fleet of large commercial aircraft totaled over 25,000 in 2017 and is expected to grow to 37,000 aircraft by 2027. Out of the 25,000 aircraft today, nearly 60% of those are narrow-body aircraft, small regional aircraft, both jet and turboprops. Saving just 10% in fuel consumption across this fleet would yield more than 5 billion gallons of fuel savings per year and is forecasted to save approximately 10 billion gallons by 2040. We also have to take into account the reduction into CO2 emissions. So how do we get there? The leading concept that NASA is currently investigating for partially turboelectric configuration is single-aisle turboelectric with IF boundary layer propulsor known as Stark-Able. This configuration is being developed assuming entry into service by 2035. It consists of two underwing turbofans with generators extracting power from turbofan shafts and transmitting it electrically to rear fuselage boundary layer ingesting fan. One of the main sources of drag on an aircraft is a layer of slow-moving air that builds up along the fuselage and wings, known as boundary layer. Boundary layer creates extra drag, and we believe we can improve aircraft performance by embedding engines into the airframe and having those engines consume boundary layer air. By ingesting boundary layer, the drag is significantly decreased, which leads to an overall improvement in aircraft efficiency. Results indicate that this turboelectric concept has an economic fuel burn reduction of 7%, an emission fuel burn reduction of 12% comparing to other aircraft designs. Several years ago, NASA has developed an advanced and highly integrated concept known as N3X, which explored fuel savings by combining a blended wing body design with fully turboelectric and fully distributed propulsion system based on superconducting electric machines and power distribution. The fuel benefits of this configuration is very significant, estimated at nearly 70% reduction comparing to conventional aircrafts such as Boeing 777. This concept has the best benefits so far studied. However, it requires the most aggressive technology and infrastructure development. And last but not least, NASA is building its first ever all-electric X-plane, X-57 Maxwell. This design will demonstrate an effective interaction between the wing, the engine propellers, and the flight mission flight path, while simultaneously solving a number of challenging technical issues for electrified propulsion in crew-rated aircrafts. While electric motors are more efficient than fuel-burning engines, they produce a significant amount of heat during operation, requiring an integrated thermal management system to be incorporated into the design. Now, a common method of solving such heat-related problems is to employ an embedded heatsink or a large metal heatsink or water cooling system. But this can cause a dramatic increase in weight, thus reducing the benefit gained by electric conversion. One such research effort to control the heat generated by these systems was performed late last year by my team, where we developed a 98% efficient 13 kilowatt power system for X-57 high-lift propulsors. Weighing only 2 pounds and completely air-cooled, this system was fully qualified across various facilities at NASA Glenn in 10 short months. And within the next 2 years, our system will be flying on X-57 flights, proving that it is possible to have a lightweight, air-cooled solution for aircrafts. In order to qualify the components in this electrified era in aviation, NASA needed to develop capability to test and verify them before in-flight testing. So we converted our hypersonic test facility in Plumbrook Station in Sandusky to NASA Electrified Aircraft Testbed, NEAT. Currently, this state-of-the-art facility is being used to test full-scale megawatt powertrains with an eye towards incorporating component technologies into an overall system. The facility can support single-aisle aircraft geometries with proper cable lengths and electromagnetic interference mitigation. It can supply power for up to 24 megawatts, thermal management system for up to 2 megawatts, and it even contains an altitude chamber that can simulate up to 120,000 feet. All electric aircraft concepts that we've seen so far rely heavily on advancements of components such as advanced motors, power converters, and material science, to name a few. X-57 work is an example of much larger research portfolio within the field of power systems led by NASA Glenn. Over the past 20 years, Glenn has pioneered designs of various high power, density, and high efficient motors for space, aeronautics, medical, and terrestrial applications. All our work has always pushed the boundaries of what's possible, and our newest motor work is no different. NASA Glenn has a small in-house team that is developing a 1.4 megawatt motor with a performance goal of 16 kilowatts per kilogram and efficiency greater than 98%. The motor contains a self-cooled superconducting rotor, which has never been done before, allowing the motor to achieve exceptional specific power and efficiencies without inheriting external cooling weight penalty commonly attributed to superconducting machines. Integrated rotor superconductor, spinning at 6,800 RPM, 4 times higher than the state-of-the-art, and weighing only 80 kilograms. This motor revolutionizes the field of advanced motors and greatly increased number of aircraft concepts that can utilize hybrid architectures. All our electric motor work is all diverse in size, applications, and power levels. And it's beyond the world of aeronautics. Just 5 years ago, my team designed, built, and delivered a biconical motor to University of Indiana School of Medicine. This motor was designed to help catalyze advancements in the field of cardiovascular assist devices, such as pacemakers for kids who are born with a single heart ventricle. This motor is tiny in comparison to the ones on aircraft, just 2 inches tall, and is powered by a total of 5 watts, same power as USB ports on your computers. Currently, our design is being used to develop a clinical trial version, and hopefully a viable device will enter a market within a decade, saving an estimated 1,500 children per year. All great progress is accompanied with great difficulty and must be enterprised and overcome with answerable courage. In our efforts, we don't underestimate the power of vision and direction. These are irresistible forces able to transform what might appear to be unconquerable obstacles into traversable pathways and expanding opportunities. I am deeply humbled to have an opportunity to be part of this amazing journey, a journey that will surely.
Replacing a space station communications antenna, another round of testing for our lunar roving robot, and discussing space policy and priorities. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. On December 2nd, NASA astronauts Tom Marshburn and Kayla Barron ventured outside the International Space Station for a spacewalk to replace a faulty antenna system. The antenna recently lost its ability to send signals to Earth via NASA's Tracking and Data Relay satellite system. Although the antenna's condition has had limited impact on station operations, mission managers decided to swap it out with a new antenna to ensure communications redundancy. NASA's Volatiles Investigating Polar Exploration Rover, or VIPER, went through a second round of egress testing at our Johnson Space Center. Similar to a car after a cross-country trip on an auto transport, VIPER's egress is the process of the rover making its way out of the lunar lander and down onto the surface of the moon, albeit after a much longer journey from Earth to the moon. VIPER is the agency's first lunar mobile robot and is scheduled to be delivered to the moon in late 2023 as part of our Commercial Lunar Payload Services initiative. On December 1st, the first National Space Council meeting under the Biden-Harris administration was held at the U.S. Institute of Peace in Washington. In her remarks, Vice President and Council Chair Kamala Harris touched on several topics, including the need for global cooperation to help make space exploration as safe as possible.
As activity in space grows, we must reaffirm, yes, the rights of all nations, and we must demand responsibility from all spacefaring nations. We must establish and expand rules and norms on safety and security, on transparency and cooperation.
The event also featured NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, who spoke about how NASA helps to inspire students to pursue educations and careers within a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics or STEM-focused area. Administrator Nelson and Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy visited our Marshall Space Flight Center on November 29th and 30th for a first-hand look at the center's vital work to advance the deep space exploration endeavors of our Artemis program. Marshall manages the agency's Space Launch System rocket, which will power the next generation of exploration under Artemis, including uncrewed and crewed flight tests around the moon that will pave the way for more complex missions to send astronauts to the moon in preparation for eventual human missions to Mars. NASA is accepting applications for new flight directors to lead highly trained teams during human spaceflight missions to the International Space Station and upcoming Artemis missions to the Moon, and eventually the first human missions to Mars. Qualified U.S. citizens can apply. For more details, visit nasa.gov/careers. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, follow us on the web at nasa.gov/twan.
Hi, I'm Dr. E. Ellen Stofan, and Dr. Z, Dr. Thomas Zurbuchen, and I would like to answer some of your questions. We got a question, which I think you and I only have one answer to. It says, what should I study in the field of space science, and why should you study it? And you and I have different reasons, so I'm curious to hear yours.
So first of all, should you study space science? Absolutely. It's a great subject area, and there's many different ways you can get into it. I actually believe the two of us have a different degree. I is a PhD in astrophysics. There's others that I know that went through engineering and so forth. And for me, what's really interesting is as we build teams, these resilient teams that make these missions happen, it takes many of us with different backgrounds coming in and study whatever it is that you're most excited about. For me, that was astrophysics, and I'm really glad I did that. I focused on the sun, but you studied something else, right?
Yeah, I studied planetary geology, and this question was one of the reasons I wore my Cassini-Huygens shirt today. I worked on the Cassini mission looking at one of Saturn's moons called Titan, and we had people who were geologists, people who studied the atmospheres. We had people who studied the rings of Saturn. We had people looking at the solar wind out in the vicinity. So you had all these people from all these different disciplines, and we were all space scientists and all working together to really try to understand Saturn and its crazy system of moons. So to me, it's the best field because it's fun. There's so much to figure out. And with data coming in from new telescopes like James Webb, we're never going to be short of puzzles for people to be working on.
So I want to ask one more question. I'm really curious about the answer, and it's really about you personally. What obstacles did you encounter as a woman in your career as a scientist, as an administrator first at NASA, now at the Smithsonian, and especially as a little girl curious about science? How did you overcome it, and who helped you along the way?
Well, I look back to my own personal experience and say, well, how did I as a young girl get involved when so few girls did? One of the things I really think about the fact is I had parents who hugely supported me. I had teachers who hugely supported me. And it wasn't till later in my career where I encountered obstacles and a lot of men who clearly thought I really didn't belong in the room. I got called little girl after I'd had a child by someone who actually worked for me. I did eventually encounter that kind of treatment, but by the time I did, I was a lot further on in my career. So I really think about how can we better support kids who may not have that support network of teachers and parents. How do we, as the science community, really reach out to kids and say, science is a great field? The other thing I really think about, and it's something I work on a lot at the Air and Space Museum, is when I was a kid, I looked for women role models. I looked for, were there women out there in science doing cool things? And I'd find biographies of Marie Curie, and that was about it. And I loved reading stories about Mary Leakey discovering the origins of life off in Africa. So I really looked for those women role models, and they were so hard to find. So as we reimagine the National Air and Space Museum, as we're redoing all the galleries, I really think about whose stories are we telling? And are we telling stories so that every kid, no matter what they look like, when they come in the museum, they understand that people who look just like them have been here all along doing amazing things in science, in technology. Because we have to broaden out our fields. We have to make everyone feel welcome, or else we're not tapping into the talent of all of our population.
Well, I really want to thank you for being a role model yourself. I remember introducing you to my daughter, and kind of the director of the Smithsonian, and of course, as distinguished scientist. What a role model you have been, and thanks for that. You persevered and pushed through. There's challenges ahead of us, and I really want to thank you for being just a role model for so many.
Thanks so much. This has been really fun, and I can't wait to do our next episode of Easy Science.
IXPE, the Imaging X-ray Polarimetry Explorer, is the first satellite dedicated to measuring the polarization of X-rays from cosmic sources like black holes and neutron stars. Its telescopes and detectors will help scientists understand extremely complex space environments in which gravitational, electric, and magnetic fields are at their limits. IXP launch coverage begins December 9th at 12:30 a.m. Eastern on the NASA app, website, and NASA television.
morning from Mission Control Houston in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where flight control teams have been on console through the early morning hours working with their counterparts at the Russian Mission Control Center in the town of Korolyov on the outskirts of Moscow for the rendezvous and docking of the Soyuz MS-20 spacecraft, which docked to the Poisk module on the Russian segment of the International Space Station at 7:40 a.m. Central Time, 8:40 a.m. Eastern Time, after completing a 4-orbit, 6-hour rendezvous that began with the launch of the Soyuz earlier this morning. Soyuz Commander Alexander Mazurkin and Japanese spaceflight participants Yusaku Maezawa and Yozo Hirano have conducted leak checks on the Soyuz side of the docking interface. The Soyuz has also transitioned to the International Space Station power and hardline communications. Soon the small vestibule or passageway between the Soyuz and Poisk module will be pressurized, and those hatches will open. The hatches were scheduled to open around 9:35 a.m. Central Time, but the crew is running just a little bit behind schedule, so we'll continue to monitor their steps for that anticipated hatch opening this morning. Recapping some of the milestones that got the Soyuz MS-20 and its crew to the International Space Station. Liftoff occurred on time at 1:38 and 15 seconds a.m. Central Time, 2:38 and 15 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. Carrying Mazurkin and Japanese spaceflight participants Maezawa and Hirano, they went skyward atop a 2.1A booster. 8 minutes and 46 seconds later, the third stage shutdown and separation happened, shortly followed by the solar arrays and navigational antennas deploying moments later to begin the Soyuz MS-20's 4-orbit journey to the International Space Station. About 6 hours later, the Soyuz MS-20 arrived and docked to the Poisk module on the Russian segment of the International Space Station. The docking probe on the Soyuz retracted and hooks closed on both sides of the docking interface to form a hard mate between the Soyuz MS-20 and the International Space Station.
000 code. 2 code. All right, I've made a note.
The crew will spend almost 12 days on the orbital outpost conducting a program of activities that involve showcasing spaceflight back to the people of Japan. Maezawa and Hirano are making their journey into space under a contract between Space Adventures and Roscosmos. Mazurkin, Maezawa, and Hirano will not become expedition crew members, but rather Mazurkin a visiting crew member and Maezawa and Hirano spaceflight participants.
Ready? Close? Yes, please. And let Yozo coming. Yozo, are you ready? Yes. I'm ready to copy the measurement results. Yes, Ignat, that's correct, and the pressure has not changed. It is still at 757. Copy 757. 757, без изменений, да. 757, no change here.
The view you're getting now from inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where teams are being led by Flight Director Pooja Jezrani.
Ignat, INPO 1 has just rebooted yet again. At approximately 18:20, correct? Well, I saw it at 18:20, that it was rebooting at that time.
Yozo, did you pack everything to 350 back? Yozo, do you pack everything back? Please, yes, because we don't want to put everything back to this back, and we a little bit in the rush.
If you're just joining us, Russian cosmonaut Alexander Mazurkin and Japanese spaceflight participants Yusaku Maezawa and Yozo Hirano docked to the International Space Station this morning at 7:40 a.m. Central Time. They're currently running through a series of leak checks on their side of the docking interface, setting the stage for vestibule pressurization and the hatches opening, where they'll be greeted inside the station by the Expedition 66 crew, followed by a welcoming ceremony.
What reason you take camera, Yozo? Use this strap for your foot. Okay. Ignat, готов принять?
Ignat, are you ready to copy the measurement results? Yes, I'm ready to copy. $756.5. 756.5. Copy.
Currently aboard the International Space Station is the Expedition 66 crew. From left to right in this graphic is NASA astronauts Raj Achari and Tom Marshburn, European Space Agency astronaut Matthias Maurer, Roscosmos cosmonauts Anton Shkaplerov and Pyotr Dubrov, and NASA astronauts Kayla Barron and Mark Vandehei.
Да, Петр, мы видим тоже картиночку хорошую, да, в принципе, это сам. Ну, давай сейчас мы будем переключаться, тогда переместись тогда в этот самый, в МИМ 2, включай там камеру, а мы будем переключать сейчас по КРЛ оттуда сигнал.
Включаем МИМ 2.
Ты их можешь отключить, если хочешь, и ту камеру. В общем-то, мы уже видели.
Это в 18 канале. Yes.
If you're just joining us, Mazurkin, Maezawa, and Hirano are still running through some leak checks on the Soyuz side of the docking interface. The Soyuz has already transitioned to International Space Station power and hardline communication. One of those next milestones will be when the vestibule or passageway between the Soyuz and Poisk module will be pressurized, leading to hatch opening this morning.
MC Moscow, calling ISS on Space Ground 2 for Peter. Go ahead and Space Ground 2. Peter, I was calling you, but if I am wrong, let me know. Altron in 32M.
Moscow, are you ready to copy another reading?
Is it more convenient for you
Yes,
to
we are
do
ready
it,
to copy.
or does Anton need to do it? I can do it myself,
756.5.
so you want me to return it to 32M mode, correct? Yes. Thank you for the confirmation, Peter.
Copy, Alexander.
Once the Soyuz crew floats through the hatch this morning, they'll make their way to the Zvezda service module, where cameras will be set up ahead of the welcoming ceremony, where some dignitaries in Mission Control Moscow will give congratulatory remarks to the crew.
МКС Москвы в канале СГ-2 для Петра. По телевидению. Да, Петь, спасибо, приняли. Петь, и, короче говоря, можно включить камеру в МИМ-2.
Камера в МИМ-2 включена. Так, на ЦВКУ пока не наблюдаю картинку.
Принято мы тоже.
А коммутация уже выполнена? Может, там надо соединение камеры?
Да, мы скоммутировали. Посмотри, там, может быть, это самое, отошло где-то соединение.
Well, could you check if the connection is plugged in and not loose? Yes, I will try to check it. Yes, this connector is not very good, and so it's quite possible. Okay, yes, I confirm.
Headache already, no? You mean you feel something? No? Okay. I see. Right. Yes, right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So please take your seat, your cameras, and check that we don't lose anything in 350. I'm not sure. Is it pocket? Okay.
Экипаж МКС СУПа Москвы.
MCC Moscow ISS on Space Ground 2 about patch opening.
Are you ready to copy another measurement? Yes. Alexander, I'm ready to copy.
Go ahead, Mikhail.
756.5, no deltas.
Preliminary data, preliminary time is 1550.
So one more measurement is left, correct?
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. One more.
1550.
Sounds
good.
So what about the spacesuits? Have you made any progress? They've already changed, into their clothes. So all these spacesuits are doffed, correct? Yes, that's correct. I confirm. But you did not start drying out, correct?
Нет, сушкой я займусь потом.
Not yet. I will do it later on. Copy.
This is Mission Control Houston. The Soyuz MS-20 has completed its 4-orbit 6-hour journey to the International Space Station. Docking came at 7:40 a.m. Central Time. Mazurkin, Maezawa, and Hirano are still inside the Soyuz spacecraft, running through some final leak checks on the Soyuz side of the docking interface. Next up, that small vestibule or passageway between the Soyuz and Poisk module will be pressurized for hatches to be opened later this morning.
Камеру можно, Петя, так и оставлять, не трогай ее больше.
You can leave the camera as is, don't touch it anymore.
Саш, давай крайний замер.
Alexander, are you ready with the last reading?
Выполняю. Крайний замер.
Just a minute. The last reading.
MCC, Moscow, Station 2. I copy, I see the video. I took the video cable from the SM because camera
756.5, no
there.
change.
So this adapter is not working
Copy.
very well.
Alexander, close ККТ.
Okay, we see the video,
in work.
video. Thank you very much.
ККТ is closed.
11.9.3.
So, is it a go to perform 11.9.3? Yes, that's correct. You have a go to perform this step, 11.9.3. It is expedited pressure equalization. Copy that I have a go to do the expedited pressure equalization.
This view you're getting now inside the Russian segment of the International Space Station inside of the Poisk module. You're looking at the hatchway, and the Soyuz is actually on the other side of this hatchway.
So, I mean the ISS pressure is 765. Okay, so the ISS pressure is 765 millimeters. So the info one is still in the process of rebooting. So should I help him to do that, so that it happens faster? Just deactivate it, Alexander. In work.
Закрываем РПВ-1.
So close RPV-1, Alexander. I'm sending the command to close RPV-1. It's S5 command. S5 command? Yes, that's correct. At 51 seconds, the KVD SOB is illuminated, and I am sending S6 command. The S6 command is sent at 39 inaudible. So stand by for the OBSU hatch cover opening by the crew of ISS. Copy. I'm standing by for the hatch cover opening. Alexander, while you are waiting for the hatch opening from the station side, there is a recommendation for you to perform the activation of the vehicle.
Go ahead and take to ground 2.
It's OBT procedure. It's procedure orbital flight starting with
Misha,
stage
about the
25.
transfer hatch opening, they are telling us we need to work for orbital flight.
Okay, so I'm writing this down. Orbital flight, ODF.
Орбитальный полет.
Минуточку, Антон.
Страница 20.
Page 25. Got it. And up to page...
The view you're seeing now inside the Russian segment of the International Space Station inside the Poisk module. You're looking at the hatchway, and the Soyuz is on the other side of this hatchway. Anton Shkaplerov was just in the view, getting everything ready on the station side to welcome Mazurkin, Miyazawa, and Hirano. They'll open up the station side hatch first before Mazurkin opens the Soyuz hatch on his side.
4.5 не выполняем.
4.5 should be skipped. Copy. It's a gas analyzer, the activation.
Да, я понял.
Yes, I understand.
Подскажи, пожалуйста, я в предварительной форме 24 видел.
So in the preliminary form 24, I saw the change out of the purification cartridge in BO. So do you give us a go to do that? No, we do not do it, or you do not do it. Copy. You will change out the cartridge in the SA, in descent module. Copy that. So P1 should be changed by P3 cartridge.
P1 на P3.
P1 to P3. Copy. Alexander, another reminder, you will have to transfer BMP. Number 18 with 3 EPK and also a fourth filter from MLM.
В смысле, афот хранится в MLM?
You mean effort is stored in MLM, correct? Or everything is in MLM? All hardware is in MLM, Alexander, and you will have to transfer it. Okay, so I'm writing this down. BNP unit number 18. 3 EPK masks and a fourth filter. Yes, I confirm.
Yes.
Got it, Moscow.
Russian cosmonaut Alexander Mazurkin inside of the Soyuz at this hour, communicating with flight controllers in Mission Control Moscow.
Alexander, and another information, Unit 2 should not be installed.
Я знаю, спасибо.
I know about that, but thank you for the reminder. In case of the fire, the BO fan should be deactivated manually. Again, for your awareness. Okay, copy. And another reminder, so 2 spacesuits should be dried in your vehicle and 1 in the vehicle 749. Copy that. So we're still standing by for the hatch opening, or by OSU hatch opening.
Хорошо.
Standing by.
экипаж МКС СУПа Москвы в канале СГ-2 для Антона.
Russian cosmonaut Pyotr Dubrov now in your view on your screen right now, helping to get things set up on the Russian side of the International Space Station.
Операция по открытию люка МИМ-2СУ и сбор документации РК и РС.
RK and RS ODF procedure for opening the hatch. I can read you the exact item. Okay, stand by 1 second.
Пункт 4.12.2.
4.12.2, page 420. Okay, stand by 1. And the through page, through numbering, which one? And by 1 second, where I'm going to look for it. Is page 52.
Rubber. And
which item? 4.12.2.
Okay.
Да, все открыл, спасибо.
Okay, open it. Thank you. Copy, Anton.
Station Commander Anton Shkaplerov now back in the view on your screen right now, taking some photos.
МКС СУП Москвы в канале СГ-2 для Петра. Его телевидение.
Moscow calling ISS on Space Round 2 for Peter about ISS in the video.
Yes, and connect to ventilation.
Go ahead and Space Round 2. Peter, I have a huge request. Look at the monitor. See if you see Baikonur on the monitor.
Сейчас проверю, пока он выключен.
Мониторчик и камеру тоже включи, пусть работает.
Okay, check. You can turn the monitor on and turn the camera because we're going to be getting ready. Now we need to make sure we can see all the videos.
Hold on.
MCC Moscow ISS on Space to Ground 2. I see Baikonur and the camera is connected. Okay, I'll leave it as is. Thank you.
And a little bit here also. Please take a seat to ZOZO place. Yes, please, just take a seat. I will switch on the ventilation. Thank you. Do you connect it? Could you please hold this? I believe it's yours. Yeah. Москва МКС канал для Александра.
Да, Саш, на связи.
Alexander.
Игнат, как слышишь?
Игнат, how do you got me?
Там
Слышу тебя хорошо.
Я просто думаю,
Ждем открытия крышки со стороны станции.
По-прежнему. Все хорошо.
All right, so we're just
18:50.
Вы там, я так понял,
18:55 поставил.
So the time is 18.
Слушку, да? Экипаж МКС СУПа Москвы в канале СГ-2.
ISS MCC Moscow on Space to Ground 2.
Игнат, как принял?
Саш, было прерывание связи. Повтори, пожалуйста. МКС СУПа Москвы.
ISS MCC Moscow on Space to Ground 2.
I started the first spacesuit, started the drying.
18:55, первый скафандр.
Go ahead and Space to Ground 2.
Петр, ну, в принципе, со всех сторон готов.
Peter, we're overall ready to open the hatch. Copy. We're ready as well, and we can start. Okay, go ahead and start. We're all waiting here at Baikonur. We're here at Baikonur, also looking forward to it.
Так, видим вас хорошо, выглядите прям.
We see you very well. You look great, and the video quality is awesome.
You can also come to this way.
Station Commander Anton Shkaplerov in the view on your screen now, running through some final milestones before he opens the hatch.
MZ, could you please do the same for this one? MZ, could you do the same for this one?
And the hatch is open on the International Space Station side.
What?
Саша, открой люк со стороны и можно выполнять действия в рамке.
Okay, it's not a problem. Подожди. This one. Я понял.
Так, Петр, Антон, сейчас приступаем к выравниванию.
Peter, Anton, we're starting the pressure equalization from the side of the Soyuz vehicle.
Без квитанции.
No response required. This is SMSRP speaking.
Так, Антон, Петр идет выравнивание со стороны.
pressure equalization is going on from the side of the Soyuz vehicle.
Vestibule pressurization is now underway.
Итак, открываю ККТ, открываю КВД.
I'm opening ККТ and
ККТ
opening
открыт.
КВД. Yes,
КВД открыт.
КВД is open.
Уравнивание давления.
Equalization of pressure is in work.
Так, Антон, с РПСМ или Петр?
Again, vestibule pressurization is now underway, setting the stage for the hatch on the Soyuz side to be opened.
Так, ну вы понимаете, да, что как корабельный люк открывается, вы сразу собираетесь по нашему сценарию в СМ. Потому что мы выходим. Да, всем экипажем станции, потому что вот время у нас уходит уже на то есть на 19, на 18:57 уже уходит время, да. Да, то есть вот это вот ПАО, которое на 19:00 у вас запланировано. Это я времена ДМВ вам говорю, это время давления.
Numbers, the time is 16:57, 16:57.
Пока идет, да. Да, ну там потом, когда выровняется давление, надо еще 2 минуты выждать.
Scorpio, 1657, and the crew will be gathering together. That is correct?
15:55.
15:55. So there will be TV coverage on arrival.
Поправляюсь. 15, вот имеется в виду вот этот
adjustment.
15:55,
So that's
16:15.
the PAO that we are planning to have. So that's what we will have.
Да, приняли.
How copy? Yes, we copy all. So we'll gather together and we'll be ready. Yes, and we see you. That's a great image. At 15:57, we'll have...
Station Commander Anton Shkaplerov back in the view right now, patiently awaiting vestibule pressurization before the hatch on the Soyuz side can be opened for him to welcome the Soyuz MS-20 crew.
So as soon as you have come, you will see an image, a video from Baikonur.
Russian cosmonauts Anton Shkaplerov and Pyotr Dubrov waiting on the station side of the hatch to welcome the new trio aboard the International Space Station.
Давление пока продолжает медленно снижаться по мановакуметру. Пометь, пожалуйста, в 7 часов ровно включил второй скафандр на сушку.
Все, Саш, принято. Спасибо. Два скафандра на сушке.
Yes, I confirm.
We can... Yes, MZ, we don't need your tablets on station. Let's hold it here. Okay. Up.
Ignat, this is Alexander. So what is the station pressure? Is it 765? Yes, it is 765, 765 millimeters. The last time we looked. Okay, copy.
У нас пока 768.
And our pressure is 768 millimeters.
And we're currently in a handover between satellites right now, but we should be regaining communications with the station in the next few minutes. Russian cosmonaut Alexander Mazurkin and Japanese spaceflight participants Yusaku Maezawa and Yozo Hirano docked to the International Space Station at 7:40 a.m. Central Time.
Copy. Yes, let's wait for 2 minutes.
The crew on the Soyuz side and station side just waiting for that final go to open the hatches on the Soyuz side. Again, the crew will spend almost 12 days on the orbital outpost, conducting a program of activities that involve showcasing spaceflight to the public. Maezawa and Hirano are making their journey into space today under a contract between Space Adventures and Roscosmos. Mazurkin, Maezawa, and Hirano will not become expedition crew members, but rather Mazurkin a visiting crew member and Maezawa and Hirano spaceflight participants.
Минута вышла, еще минуту жду.
So 1 minute is up. I'm waiting for the other one.
Давление стабильно, да?
The pressure is stable, right, Alexander?
767.
It's 767 now. Copy, Alexander.
Продолжаем.
Continue.
Игнат, 2 минуты вышло, давление...
Ignite. 2 minutes are up and the pressure is stable, close, KKT. Copy in work. KVD also should be closed.
Station Houston on space
And
24 Tom.
now you have a go to open the hatch cover. Copy in work.
And Peter and Anton,
So I will release the push to talk
beginning to
button
open
and
the
I'm opening the hatch now.
Саш, нам надо будет потом вернуться там.
Sasha, you will have to go back to the vehicle later on because you have some actions there to
Go
perform.
ahead on SG2.
Yes, of course. After the PO event, I guess.
Back in the Poisk module, European Space Agency astronaut Matthias Maurer has joined Anton Shkaplerov.
All right.
We are all here together.
So you will give me the reference to the steps that I'm supposed to perform later on? It's page 82, Alexander.
Maurer taking some photos of the crew out of view right now.
A box, you will have to deactivate the purification cartridges in BO. Ignat, I won't be able to memorize it all right now. So could you please give me a reference to the steps? Okay, step 12.3, page 82, the actions in the box.
Hey, just to let you know, since
If the crew is on the station. Okay, step 12.3 and ODF.
slide that to the right.
What procedure is that?
Ultrasound exam is also flexible. We can also slide that to the right.
Did you copy, Ignat? You can open the hatch. Now, you have a go to open the hatch. So I am recording these steps. So what ODF is that? It is a short profile.
Then you don't have to do the calibration
procedure. Okay. I understand. You won't be waiting for me. All right. So after the PO, I will perform 12.3, and then we'll do the activation as per the procedure. The activation of the vehicle. Yes, I confirm everything is correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Soyuz hatch opening is now underway. And the Soyuz hatch is now open at 10:11 a.m. Central Time, 11:11 a.m. Eastern Time. First in, Soyuz Commander Alexander Mazurkin. Next is spaceflight participant Yusaku Maezawa. And the final crew member to cross the hatch, Yozo Hirano. Again, the Soyuz hatch opened at 10:11 a.m. Central Time. Now 10 residents aboard the International Space Station. With the Soyuz MS-20 crew now aboard the International Space Station, the crew will make their way to the Zvezda service module, where cameras will be set up ahead of the welcoming ceremony, where dignitaries in Mission Control Moscow will give congratulatory remarks to the crew.
I have a feather. In my right hand, a hammer. And I guess one of the reasons we got here today was because of a gentleman named Galileo a long time ago who made a rather significant discovery about falling objects in gravity fields. And we thought that where would be a better place to confirm his findings than on the moon. And so we thought we'd try it here for you. The feather happens to be appropriately a falcon feather.